Well, what a time we've had. In some parts of the country, a month's rain fell in a day. You have my sympathy, but it's an ill wind, or in this case, ill rain. Some plants have loved it, like me pumpkins, sown with a few other seeds on this manure heap back in spring and left to its own devices. But right now, it's burgeoning beautifully for Halloween. I'm not really a fan of pumpkin pie, to be quite honest. I like just looking at them. But man cannot live by pumpkins alone. He also needs wildflowers. This is the patch of land that I'm turning into a wildflower meadow to do a bit of butterfly conservation. Now, I rotivated it last week down to a depth of 1 or 2 inches, and of course all the rain that's fallen has nicely firmed it up, so I'm ready to sow. Now, you could argue that spring is the best time to sow wildflower seeds, but it isn't. There's a chance they may dry out, they'll be quite small plants, much more at the mercy of nature. By sowing now, in October, which is a natural time for the seeds to fall, the soil is moist, there's no danger of it drying out, and all those youngsters can be fit and healthy for spring growth when they'll absolutely romp away. This is the mixture I'm going to use. It's a combination of grasses, things like crested dog's tail, and all kinds of wild flowers. There's also a degree of something called yellow rattle in here, which is a parasitic plant that feeds on the roots of grasses and therefore makes it weaker than it would otherwise be and less likely to compete too much with the wild flowers. You need to sow it at the rate of about 4 grams per square metre, so I measured out 4 grams of the seed, marked a cup with where it came to, and each of these 4 grams, you're not going to go over this entire area and scatter 1 per metre. So what you do is you work out how much that 4 grams is in your hand, and that is roughly your metre's worth of scattering. The easiest thing to do is to plonk your seed in a bucket and then just work your way down there, broadcasting it from not quite a dizzy height, but about 3 feet. But if, like me, you go to farm sales, you can pick up for a tenner one of these. Beautiful piece of equipment. It's called a seed fiddle. I'll show you how to use it. The seed goes in this little sack at the top, and then you can start playing your tune. This is where you begin to look like something out of Thomas Hardy's Wessex. This strap goes over your head, round your neck, and then, just like Mantovani, you walk down the soil and you start to fiddle, and the seed is spread out from that oscillating sprinkler at the front. It's incredibly efficient and very good bowing practice for young string players. Don't be tempted to rake the seed in to cover it up, because most of these wildflower seeds need light to germinate, so a light trampling or a light rolling will suit them nicely. Me, I'm going to let the rain do the job for me. Talk about a life on the fiddle.
As the season draws to a close, think about rotation of crops. It'll help to keep nutrient levels balanced, and if, like me, you garden organically, it's especially important because it'll ensure that soil pests and diseases are kept to a minimum. For instance, this year my potatoes were grown in this plot. Next year they'll be moving in here, where currently I'm growing carrots, onions and garlic. And then the carrots, onions and garlic will be moved into here for next year. And when it comes to garlic, I'm going to grow some of this elephant garlic, and it really is pretty special, particularly when you consider the size of this bulb compared with a normal garlic bulb. The interesting thing is it's actually more of a leek than it is garlic. You treat it in very much the same way as you would normal garlic, each of the cloves going in about 2 inches deep, but spacing them this time about 9 inches apart to allow for that extra bulb size. Now, because my soil here is really pretty heavy and this is an overwintering crop, I'm planting on a slight ridge just to make sure that the drainage really is good enough. Now, this should be ready to harvest once the foliage yellows, and that will probably be about July, August time next year. Now, it's reported that these have a lovely, really mild garlicky flavour. They're meant to be gorgeous for roasting, and apparently you can even slice them and have them in sandwiches. Just can't wait to have a taste.
Well, not only is it a good time of year for planting new fruit trees and bushes, it's also a good time of year to move established ones. No, I'm not recommending you do that, but if you have to, then now's the time to do it. This fruit garden here, which has black currants, blackberries, gooseberries and red currants in it, is a bit too shady under this old oak tree. So I decided the time has come to move these fruit bushes to other parts of the garden, and that then frees up this patch of ground so I can do something more exciting in it next year. But before you move an established fruit bush like this, you might just as well prune away some of the wood to save you having to carry something too big and cumbersome. With red currants and white currants like this one, what you want to try and do is to shorten the central leader by about 1/3, and then the side shoots below it can be cut back to 3 or 4 buds, because it's these that will carry the fruits next year. Cuts, as always, just above a leaf so there's nothing to die back. The other thing about removing these side shoots is that you open up the centre of the bush a bit and improve air circulation, which makes it less likely that you get fungus diseases. You can then prise it out the soil. Now, white currants are fairly shallow rooted, but I want to give this as little a shock as possible, so I'm going to cut round it about 1 foot away from the centre of the bush to give it a decent sized root ball and make moving less of a trauma. You don't see much of this stuff about anymore, Hessian, but every gardener should have some. It's very handy. Take one end of a sheet and just zigzag it like that. And plonk it down one side of the hole, and with your clay-covered spade, prise up the root ball on one side and push the bush away from you so that you can press the Hessian down into the opening, pushing it halfway under the bush. And then you can go around the other side and try and tilt it in the opposite direction and pull it through. Easier said than done. There we are. Phew! Then take the corners of the sacking up into the centre of the bush just so that they hang on to that root ball, and then heave it out. Come on, my beauty. Trouble is, the bigger the root ball, the harder it is to move. Here we go. And time to go and find a hole somewhere else. Now I'm going to do the entire operation in reverse, easing it over into the hole, on the barrow, ease over the root ball, push that Hessian back under the root ball and pull it out. It's like a rather more muscular version of pulling the tablecloth out from underneath the crockery on the table, isn't it? I've worked loads of manure into this soil now. It's simply a matter of putting it back up to the root ball and really firming it in. I shall be moving the rest of these soft fruit bushes during the course of the autumn, and that frees up that patch of land now to do some other inspirational little design. How do I get the inspiration? I do exactly what all gardeners do, including Stephen Lacey. I go and look at the gardens of the influential designers, people like Jacques Wirtz.
Formal gardening will always be in fashion, no matter what the other trends of the moment happen to be. And now and again, a designer steps forward who brings a completely fresh look to the art, still using the same old ingredients of grass, water, clipped trees and shrubs. This is the home here in Schoten of one of them, the Belgian designer Jacques Wirtz. He runs his office from here as a family business.
I started as a gardener. I make my studies during the war, and we had only 2 hours a week on landscaping, on designing gardens. With big pencil, that's fine. But so I started really as a gardener.
You enter the garden slipping between these high hornbeam hedges, immaculately pruned, and into a typical Jacques Wirtz space, intimate, shut off from the outside world, and with his characteristic clipped shapes flanking the pathway. The small scale continues around the side of the house as you pass through this formal enclosure with its 4 standard bay trees. And then, as in the Renaissance gardens of Italy, you suddenly burst out into a contrasting space of great size. These are the private gardens and nursery areas where Jacques and his sons Peter and Martin grow a range of plants for their designs, including an astonishing assortment of trees and shrubs, clipped into myriad shapes and ready to give immediate impact in clients' gardens. It was an old vegetable garden when Jacques came in 1970, but with good fertile soil and nicely protected by a belt of beech trees. The most fabulous features are these rippling box hedges lining the main walkway under the fruit trees. Back in 1970, they were regular hedges, which had become completely overgrown and threadbare.
The hedges were totally wild. It was a stem with some leaves on it. A normal person should cut it down and throw it away, but my father didn't do that. We began to clip it following the natural form around branches. And after 30 years, that's the result.
All these formal shapes obviously take a certain amount of maintenance, but Jacques defends them by saying at least they only need 1 or 2 clips a year, unlike a lawn which needs mowing every week. Often, almost the only colour playing in a Wirtz garden is green. The livelier colours of flowers he tends to box away so they don't interrupt the musical harmony of the composition. Also, you don't have to look at them when they're past their best. So here in his own garden, he's tucked this mass of delphiniums behind a box sculpture, and his summer rose garden is shut off by high hedges.
You make a microclimate in your garden by close it by hedges, make some rooms, and in general it is the continuing of the architecture of the house to give the house a bigger base, that it is integrated in the environment.
But Jacques and his sons design on the grand scale too, as at La Petite Garenne, a private garden nearby. Planted in 1989, there's more than a hint of Versailles and the grand French garden. Vast avenues of trees open onto monumental landscape structures, including tiers of clipped hedges, a circular mount, and reflecting canals. The main area has been designed as a goosefoot of radiating walks, the pattern infilled with pennisetum grasses. It's a tapestry of shapes and textures which looks as good in autumn and winter as it does in spring and summer. The walks taper to exaggerate the perspective and make the garden seem longer. The Belgian climate is quite similar to ours, if anything even greyer, so these hedges and topiary play an important role in giving contrasting depth of colour and strength of line.
But as one flower fades, so another reaches its moment of glory, like the aster at Upton House near Banbury in Oxfordshire.
Asters are one of the stars of the autumn border. We've been growing them in this country for over 400 years, but until now they've never really been in the horticultural limelight. But what other genus would give you such an array of cool, sophisticated drifts right through from September to Christmas?
The name itself derives from the Greek word for star, and their history goes back at least 4,000 years. They're often called Michaelmas daisy, although enthusiasts will probably only use this name to refer to the commonly grown Aster novi Belgii. The genus includes about 250 species of annuals, perennials and subshrubs, and they're actually very diverse in structure, stature and flower colour. Asters have composite flower heads, which means the central disc is composed of up to 300 tiny individual flowers, predominantly in yellow and orange. These are surrounded by enlarged contrasting petals, whose main function is to attract pollinating insects. Violet Queen is a compact, stocky amellus cultivar suited to the front of the border. This has probably the richest, deep violet petals of all the asters, and these contrast well with the golden composite discs.
This is Aster lateriflorus horizontalis. Now if you've got a windswept border or a border that's very dry, this is exactly what you're looking for. The small leaves mean that it's fine for an arid border, and the low, shrubby, compact habit with these wonderful sherbet-like flowers are great for a windy site.
Like many herbaceous perennials, it's best not to cut them down too early. Positioned at the back of the border amongst other herbaceous perennials and grasses, they won't require staking and tying. Don't be put off by the rumours that they're prone to mildew. It's mainly Aster nova Belgii which is susceptible.
If you're after a foaming mass of flowers and fine textured foliage, try this. This is Aster ericoides, Golden Star.
Well, we've seen some pretty amazing gardens in this year's BBC Garden of the Year competition, and Rachel de Thames' travels have taken her all over Britain. This week she meets the 4th finalist in one of my favourite parts of the country.
The fishing port of Looe on the south coast of Cornwall is a delight for the many tourists who visit every year.
The rolling countryside that surrounds this idyll has its own secrets, and one that reflects 9 years of creative and physical hard work by its owner, Valerie Sturdy, is a real gem. Valerie, this garden's something of a surprise, isn't it? You come to the top, not knowing there's anything here, and suddenly it's full of garden. Now, what possessed you to put a garden on such an unhospitable site?
When we moved here, it was a rubbish tip here on the left. You couldn't get down to the bottom at all. And on the right, it was a scree slope and a sheep pasture at the bottom.
And how did you actually physically achieve it? What did you do?
Well, we had to have a digger in, and he worked all day, and he made the paths and made these tiers all the way along.
But luckily, I mean, there are lots of plants you can grow that like this sort of thin soil.
Yes.
I mean, your rosemaries are just romping away.
Yes, yes, and the brooms, of
Yes,
course.
broom obviously is
They
handy.
love it.
Well, I must say, the plants can really bask in the sun, can't they, because of the terracing?
Yes, yes, and they get the early morning sun until it goes down in the evening.
What's it like here in the winter?
Really is a frost pocket along by the stream. The wind, I think, blows away any frost further up here.
Now, I can hear the water from here. I haven't seen it yet. Oh, yes. Gosh, it's really quite fast moving.
Yes, it's fast moving all the year round. It never dries up. And in fact, in the winter, it overflows.
Don't the Asters mind that?
Well, they seem to be able to cope.
Plenty of irises. And you've got some more variegated foliage just here, and that really lightens this area, doesn't it?
Yes, it's very pleasing, that. Yes.
Blue hydrangeas, so acid soil.
Acid soil, yes.
Lucky you, that's why your camellias are doing so well. Oh, this looks lovely, Val. Really beautiful, Valerie. Oh, and strong colours, look at that. We've got nasturtiums and penstemons.
I just love bright colours, and I think all colours in a garden go well together, especially a big garden. Enjoyed it.
What made you want to enter Garden of the Year?
I always thought it was a bit of a challenge, and so I thought, well, why not?
Have a go.
That's right.
How do you think you'll feel if you win?
I won't believe it. Believe it. But just the fun of taking part. I mean, having got this far is super.
Good luck to Valerie. It's a nerve-wracking time. It's a nerve-wracking time for this canna too. Thanks to the weather this year, they've been rather slow to come into flower. Lovely now, but very late. I left this canna in last year and it coped. The reason it coped with the hard weather is because I lagged it, rather like lagging your loft. But for this, you don't need cosy wrap or fiberglass. You need well-rotted manure or compost, and loads of it, spread to a thickness of 4 to 6 inches around the roots, will keep the heat in. I'll leave the top growth on, might as well enjoy it until it gets frosted back, and then when it starts to look brown and nasty, I'll cut it off at the bottom and wait for next year's growth. That's one way of keeping a plant alive through the winter. There are others for different plants. With some plants, it's not so much winter cold as winter wet that can polish them off. A lot of alpines have a nice dry bed under a blanket of snow in the Alps and the Himalayas. Here they just tend to get a bit soggy. Things like the vegetable sheep, Raulia, which comes from New Zealand, can take temperatures really very, very low but does hate the wet. So if you've got a bell jar, who's got a bell jar except me? They're making them again now. You can use a sheet of glass over some bricks. Just prop it up over the plant, wedge it with a stone like that, and it sits quite neatly there. Not all alpines need this kind of protection, but particularly it's useful on the grey-leaved kinds. If you find they rotted off in the past, give them a bell jar or a sheet of glass, and they'll be as happy as a vegetable sheep. I haven't got a bell jar big enough for my olive tree, and anyway, like the citrus fruits here, unless they're in really sheltered town gardens or in the West Country, they do need to come in for the winter. They need to be kept just above frost level, temperature of 40, 45 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 5 to 7 degrees Celsius. It's that time of year I don't really enjoy. I prefer taking them out and looking forward to summer. If you haven't got a greenhouse to keep your olive tree in, then it'll be fine in a porch or a cool conservatory. It lacks really good light as well as that protection from frost. Now, heating bills in winter are what greenhouse owners suffer from, and you can reduce them by lagging the inside of your greenhouse with bubble wrap. Taking down a shelf here, getting it out of the way, and I've already rigged up a single strand here of plastic coated wire to support the bubble wrap. You can get all kinds of fixings for insulation like this for aluminium greenhouses that clip to the grazing bars. Mine's rather peculiar, so I have to be a bit inventive. Piece of bubble wrap, already made the holes in it. Push it back towards the side there, and then these wonderful technological inventions, they're called clothes pegs. Peg the bubble wrap to the wire, leaving that flap sticking up at the back to give it the protection between the glass and the inside. That goes right down there. The shelf can go back on, which helps to hold it in position. And the plants can go on it, neatly insulated from the elements.
There's more practical advice and inspirational ideas on the way next here on UK TV Gardens as we head into the ever-popular gardener's world. So stay with us.